Clock, we will call meeting to order. Asking the roll call members.
Mark Baker.
Here.
Ed Daly.
Here.
Greg Blanton.
Here.
Jeff Brown.
Here.
Greg Harrell.
Here.
Tom Pattison.
Here.
Jory Martin. Here.
Present. Adoption of the agenda. Are there additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I have an agenda addition. If I can, I'd like to add a motion to add to the agenda this board member's public statement on the town of Front Royal's partnership agreements pertaining to the Front Royal Police Department and other debt instruments issued by the EDA.
Let's add that item under the Assets Committee. Put that as an item there. And we have a reference from Mr. Siegel that after our second closed session, consideration of extension of the authority's line of credit note with First Bank and Trust. And we'd like to add that item after the second closed session. Any other additions or deletions? A motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is unanimous. Approval of the minutes, November 15th. Any corrections? A motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is unanimous. Mr. Stanley and Ms. Logan could not be here today. We have the report from the county, and if anybody has any questions, we can refer them to Mr. Parsons, and he can check with them next week to get us an answer if there's any questions on the report. Town of Front Royal, Mr. Keegan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have a report before you. Just to hit on a couple of the highlights, the Shentel pole attachment agreement and fiber rollout. The town is really excited about this agreement. We've already have 6% of the town that has been covered with fiber. We anticipate completion as late as summer of 2021, but based upon the progress they're making, frankly, we're anticipating that much sooner. Data Center Committee, we're following the county's lead on this. The county passed a resolution which just basically the intention to lower their personal property rate as it relates to data centers. The town I've put together a working group, and we're digging into this with great detail. We're looking at fiber, locations of fiber. We're looking at water capacity needs, electric needs, etc. I had a phone call yesterday with a Fortune 50 company just to gather more information about data centers and what the demands are. So our goal is to, from a staff perspective, is to compile all this information and present it to council for consideration at a work session. The Afton Inn, we all know the situation with the Afton Inn, and I know we're trying to get a meeting scheduled next week to discuss that and the safety issues related to it. The Sheets master plan has been approved. It's my understanding they've proceeded to acquire the hotel on right there at the corner of 17th and Royal, or 522. IT Federal Extension, all work is complete except for bioretention unit, and they need to construct a storm drain pipe in order to get that retention unit finished. The Royal Phoenix Pump Station, the last major item there is to get just a phone line, install a phone line. It's been tested. Everything seems to be working properly. And the last highlight I want to hit on is the town is, we have several goals and priorities that we've instituted, one of which is to reconsider and look at our subdivision and land ordinance. We have a committee that's met numerous times. They're going through our subdivision ordinances. It's been our opinion that the ordinance that's in place has prevented subdivisions from being installed in property that we have 600 acres or so that's been annexed that hasn't had any movement. So we're reevaluating all that as well. Those are just some of the highlights. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I have some. First, do you have a timeline for the IT Federal Main Street Extension project?
It's up to the owner. The owner's been contacted and told that he needs to finish his bioretention unit and his storm drain pipe, and so he hasn't moved forward on that yet.
Is there any dispute between the parties as to who's responsible for building that?
I haven't heard specifically of any issue related to that.
Okay. You had met with some members of the EDA board when we presented the expenses regarding the police station and said that you'd get a response for it. I didn't see a response, but I did see that the town voted to increase its legal war chest. At the joint meetings that we had together, we were told that the lawsuit was merely to stop the statute of limitations. Do you have a sense of where you all are going with this?
I do have a sense, but I have to refer you to our counsel related to that.
How do town residents feel about paying double legal fees when the EDA is willing to sit down and figure out the differences with you?
Yeah, I can't speak for town citizens.
Okay. And then finally, on another issue, could you explain the reasoning behind your attempt to create an economic development authority?
I can. The town wants to be in a position, the town council, I believe, is in the belief that the EDA is going to be insolvent in February and March based upon public comments that EDA members and Mr. Parsons have made based upon the financial records. So we want to be in a position that in the event the town does become insolvent, or the EDA does become insolvent, we want to be able to have an economic development authority to promote business and to get appropriate financing. So there's been no decision by the town to do that. The process that I've been told by our attorney is that the General Assembly has to approve it, and then once it's approved, then we have the ability to form an EDA within town limits. It's not uncommon. There's many towns in the Shenandoah Valley that have economic development authorities. There hasn't been a firm decision that we actually are going to form one.
How many towns have two economic development authorities?
I don't believe any towns have two. No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Neither does town of Front Royal going to have two. We're going to have one. Any other questions, Mr. Chairman?
Terry?
Yeah, regarding the storm pipe extension, what has IT Federal's response been to the town? Have they responded regarding the?
I have not seen any response related to that.
Okay. So you don't know if they're communicating with you on that then?
Well, I know they're not communicating with me.
Okay. You don't know if they're communicating with your staff?
Yeah, I do not know that.
Okay.
I can find out. I'll go back and ask.
I just want to know if they're being cooperative, that's all.
Yeah, I do know that he called. And he called 2 weeks ago maybe, and wanted to know if the town was going to contribute to the storm pipe. I don't know specifically who he spoke to, but I got to go back and look at my notes on that.
Okay.
I think it would be really helpful, sir, if there's correspondence between the town and IT Federal on this thing, if we could be included in that loop,
Oh, absolutely.
copy of
Yeah,
it,
no problem.
because that's part of our negotiations with IT Federal too, is so that they can complete it, and I don't want them telling the town one thing and telling us another,
Yeah.
and just kind of playing the two off there.
I will. I'll go back to the office this morning. I'll contact our engineer and find out what correspondence he has had, and if there's been email exchanges, I'll have him forward it to both of us.
And I know Mr. Camp has had some conferences with him, and he correspondence and has notified us of that, and that has been very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the Afton Inn, what does the town memorandum of understanding say as it relates to the EDA returning the Afton Inn property to the town in the event that it's not developed?
Yeah, I'd have to consult, let you talk to Mr. Napier about that. I will let you know, Mr. Napier sent me a memo, which I will forward to you. Mr. Chairman sent it to me yesterday. He originally had taken the position that repairs and maintenance were the town's responsibility per the MOU. Apparently, he was on medical leave the first half of the week. He came back and did more thorough research on it. He sent me a memo, and the short version of it is that the repairs and maintenance are the responsibilities of the EDA in 2 East Main because of the contract that's in place. The town is not party to that, so the repairs and maintenance clause of the MOU is no longer, according to Mr. Napier, is no longer a responsibility of the town. So, again, we have I think we have a real safety hazard there. The sidewalks have been blocked, barricaded, and we just need to get some movement on that.
Okay. So I have the memorandum here.
Okay.
And that's not what I read, but my interpretation could be different.
Yeah, you're not an attorney, I'm not an attorney.
Either one.
Yeah.
But I can read, so it doesn't appear that the town really put a contingency in there to recapture the Afton Inn in the event that's not developed.
Okay.
So
That's what it says on it.
yes, well, it's not what it says, it's what it doesn't say.
Okay.
I'm just wondering how the town is going to respond to that, to the citizens, when they lose a piece of property and you're in the midst of trying to form your own EDA.
Yeah, I think we have plans as it relates to the Afton Inn.
Okay. So,
Just one more clarification regarding the Sheets property, sir. I've had a couple of different interpretations as well. It's going to be in the middle of the block where the hotel is.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not down at the end by the bridge.
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think so,
Yeah.
but I wanted.
And one other point of clarification, there's been some questions as to whether or not a traffic light is going to be installed at the 17th Street in Royal. That is not the case. There's no traffic light planned. VDOT did a study and said it wasn't warranted, which, I have my own personal feelings, but it is what it is.
Go around the block.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
All right,
See you later.
should we, Mr. Siegel, should we go ahead to close session or should we wait and defer that for a little bit?
You should definitely wait for a couple.
Okay. We will then.
Otherwise you're stuck with me making it.
We will defer the closed session for right now, and we will move to the executive committee report.
Okay, hold on here. Grab it. The only thing that I wanted to highlight in it is that Sharon and I have been talking about updating the EDA bylaws and reviewing them. So if any directors have any things that they'd like to consider or suggestions that they have, if you could get them in by next week, so we have a week to do it, and then just mail the proposals to Gretchen and myself. But just take a look at the bylaws. It's been a while since they've been updated. We have opportunities to make changes that make sense and work with our workflow and such. So please get them in, take a look. Thank you. Did you want to talk at all about the?
Anything else?
That's all I have, yes.
Number one, I want to thank everybody for coming Monday evening. It was very beneficial for all of us to review these materials on COIA and FOIA, so we have them. Number two, the strategic priorities. Jeff and I have looked at these together and we've kind of divided them And I will get out this next week to you, each of the committees, a listing by committee of the different priorities that we have, as we have matched on it. Well, this is a project that needs to go over to assets, or this is a project that needs to go to finance, etc. And then ask you to look at those priorities, prioritize them within that group as you see it, and then we'll bring that all back in January. We'll send it out to everybody at the beginning of the year to look at the total, and then hopefully have something for adoption in January. That's our plan. Our priority from now till January is to get our presentation for the new board of supervisors together, and arrange that and have a schedule. Good morning. Good morning. To let you know when that has occurred. I do want to thank you for arranging FOIA and FOIA training. It's going to be very helpful and informative for all of us to finally get to see this. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. We have a meeting schedule for next year. That shows all of our meetings. We need to adopt this so everybody can arrange their schedules accordingly and know when they are. I would hesitate to thought about it seriously. We had several people who had different meetings they'd like to move. We're going to be going around in a circle if we try to do that. I think we'll have to use our phone conferences for if somebody cannot be here during the meeting. We may want a special meeting in early January when we meet with the board of supervisors. And we'll let you know about that when we have a better detail on that as to exactly when that is and whether we need to have a meeting per se, or we can just attend their meeting. So we'll see how that works.
Are these dates, with the exception of some holidays, all, I don't have my calendar.
They are all
They're on
the
Fridays?
They are all the
Yeah.
fourth Friday. November and December, they are the third Friday.
Yeah, the December date, I think, is a typo. So somebody could just come up with, I wasn't sure what date we wanted it to be. But I think the 20th is a Sunday.
Oh, it would be the 18th, I'm sorry, December
18th, that's
18th.
correct, yes, sir.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem. So if you substitute December 20 and insert December 18, that will be the third week of November and December and the fourth of the remaining months. So the motion to adopt the schedule.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is unanimous. One of the things with the bylaws, Mr. Brown would like to look at what we can do for how many times we can call in and so forth, how many meetings we can miss. And I know there's some state requirements, but I would like to look at that as part of the bylaws.
And
To
what,
look at that.
when you have a regular meeting versus a special meeting versus an emergency meeting, what are the requirements? Just clarifying a lot of this so that we know what state laws are, and then if there's flexibility, that we can discuss it.
Thank you. Motion to issue an RFQ for legal collections and settlement services. That's probably more of a finance, but we could go ahead and do it since it's here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't actually, this is a point of order, Sharon pointed out that we actually approved a motion at the last meeting to do this. So
Okay.
we don't really do it. What we do have is a draft of this. I think we're gonna talk it among ourselves and then hopefully by early next week get it out and try to get responses back by the end of the year.
So we have all the authorization. Don't
We have, I think so.
Okay, we're good then. We'll just
And
strike that out.
it is just for debt collection. We're either going to hold off doing one on settlement services, or we're going to draft a separate one.
Okay. Any questions, other items regarding the executive committee report? All right, finance.
Finance Committee, we have the general ledger from the county. We do not have the financials run through November. I should have those by the end of today, I'm assuming is where we are. We have started to work on the 2021 budget. We are also working on
2021?
well, 20 and 2021, we're starting on that budget already for next year, for July, because presentation is in February, I believe. So we need to, I'm starting to look at that. We've already had one meeting, or Ed and I have met on that. We also have sat down and are looking, as alluded to before, discussing exactly where we are financially, what our obligations are over the next 3 to 4 months, and where we are as far as being able to meet those obligations at this point. So we will have something by the end of December for consideration by the board to move forward. And that will obviously coincide with the 2021 budget. So I'm hoping to be able to have the draft of all of that ready for first pass by the first of the year. Hence the special meeting in the first part of January at this point. Insurance, the Stokes Mark insurance, we renewed with Cincinnati through Stoneburner and Carter. The reasoning for that is the condition of the building. It is not in the best of shape, and when I reached out to several other insurance folks, they were not particularly interested in bidding on the property. So we have left it where it is. One thing we did do, based on recommendation from Ed, we did contact concerning our FEMA requirement, and we are able to lower the FEMA requirement, not by much, but a little over $50,000, so that will reduce that premium of $15,000 a year on the Stoke market somewhat. We did get it in writing from the bank so that we are on firm footing and have that in our files. Solar update, I'd like to go into that in closed session, if I may. I can discuss some of it here, but there was a meeting with the regional jail with their folks. We were more listeners, I would say, Greg, with you than participants, but we did answer questions as they wrestled with whether they were interested in our system. I think because it would be we'll discuss the remainder of that in closed session. The other item that I had was the grazing lease. There is a grazing lease that has been in place, at least I know, for 10 or 15 years. I know since I was here before. And they would like to renew again. The income is $1,000 a year. And so I would like the board at least to entertain a motion with a second so we could discuss.
Motion.
I said move.
Okay.
I think
There you go.
Is there a second to the move?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're moving pretty quick. So do we have any other potential uses at all?
I'll defer to Greg. I don't think it's, I don't know, Greg.
So I think I know where you're leading with this. I think the motion was to discuss, not approve, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I don't know about the exact usage, but whatever the lease says, we need to have a kick out in it, just like we do with everything
Thank
else.
you. You just answered my question.
Exactly. So how we evaluate, I have not personally evaluated the property, but as long as we have a kick out in it and
Good.
we're good.
Okay. then I would entertain a motion to approve the lease with an added kick-out of 90 days. Is that enough time?
I was thinking there was a provision that I thought was 6 months.
We could certainly do 6
Is there
months.
something like that in there?
So,
I,
would prefer 90 days.
That's pretty long, yeah.
yeah, 90 days would be.
Yeah, the bottom line is we need a termination for convenience for 90 days.
yeah, so, George, this is an asset, obviously. I haven't reviewed the lease.
And, you know, it has been many years since I've been out to look at the pasture, and I truly don't know if it is viable at this point.
I really want to do the right thing. I want to look at the property, and I really want to evaluate the lease, so without discussion, we can table this.
So
Okay.
we'll defer this, I refer this item to the Assets Committee for January.
This already has a 30-day kick-out notice. If, on 2.
It does say 30-day notice.
Yeah,
That is for-
seems, so, we've got it, but.
For what reason? Is it for convenience?
No reason.
I think it's any reason on our part that if we give him
That's
notice
fine.
of 30 days.
Well, if it has a 30-day kick-out, I would probably approve it. I mean, 30 days is nothing.
That's great. Do we want to reconsider,
I mean,
I haven't reviewed the lease.
okay, so then we'll leave it review.
We'll refer this item to the Assets Committee and take it up in January.
I don't want to stall on it, but I need
There won't
to.
be cutting any hay between now.
Good.
Yeah, there won't be any grazing.
no grazing now.
Can I ask a question here? Is it something that if, that it's timely enough where if the asset committee approves it, that we can go ahead and sign it? Could we?
You could sure do a motion to that, I would think, Sharon.
Or would you prefer not to?
I don't have any problem telling him if the Assets Committee approves it and doesn't see anything, having been out and seen the property, and I have had that advantage. I don't have any problem telling him that we will approve it, but I don't want to sign anything until the board approves it.
Okay. All right.
Agreed. Thank you.
It's just mine.
I will
Hang up here.
Thank you.
Okay, do we, accounting services?
We do have at the end of this month, Holland Willis will be, their current contract with us is through the end of December. So it is a question of whether the board wishes to renew with additional time for services from that term. I would recommend that we don't renew at this point and to work on an individual basis as we need them, maybe during the month, as their expenses run us quite a bit of money every month, a little over $10,000. And I don't think we're in a position to do that.
Parsons, you have a comment?
Yeah, we're going to be meeting with Heather and Carolyn later today, and perhaps we can work on a transition plan and talk with them about how best to transition some of the duties from Heather to Gretchen, and see what we can do to have a smooth transition out of their services.
So we have 18 days for the transition. Okay. There's also the point I think we ought to look at, if we are on the county's finance system, we ought to look at what financial services they may be able to provide for us, that we don't have to duplicate this. As Mrs. Martin pointed out, this is $10,000 a month.
You could argue that we shouldn't be doing anything financially. If everything's
Well,
running through the
that's
county.
correct. That's correct. That's exactly right. We should not. We should be able to get out of this and be able to do this as a regular county department. And then there's no additional finance costs for that aspect of our accounting records. So the other item that I had down here do we need to motion to authorize advertising a loan review committee? I would like to be sure that there is a public notice and that people can apply. I don't care how they do it, I don't care who they are, but that the public knows we're gonna have a loan review committee, and if they would like to be part of it, they can submit their nomination.
So a non-board member can be a committee member?
Yes, these are, I believe these are all.
All five.
They are all non-board members. This is for the rebeg loan committee, and we have, and I'll defer to Mr. Parsons, but I've sat in on a couple of meetings where we are looking for diversity on the committee, different avenues, also of fields of expertise, and having those folks sit and review the loans, and there's only one, EDA, other than finance chair, Mr. Parsons, to be, we're just a liaison for that committee.
This body would be making recommendations to the EDA to approve these loans and so forth.
Yeah.
There's another group.
5 members, so,
Yes.
and we would then go through them, I'm assuming finance and
Yes.
Doug, and then we would present them to the board for approval to establish the committee, and that should be a priority for January, so absolutely.
But it needs to be a public notice that everybody's aware of it.
We've been working closely with USDA
Yes.
on this, and Joe Boatwright said that, for the first few loans that we may do, he would come up and review them with us and make sure that we're on the right track. And I would envision having a much more strenuous loan review process than has been had in the past.
So,
Mr. Blunt.
I'm sorry.
Are there requirements for the public board members other than to be obviously residents of Warren County?
Yes, actually, when I say requirements, they like to see diversity. They want to see folks that are from diversified backgrounds, to be perfectly honest. And they want people that have different areas of expertise. In general, they do recommend, they want someone like from a bank or someone that is very knowledgeable from a financial standpoint. I'd like to see somebody that's a business owner that has a successful loan with us to sit on the committee as well, because they certainly bring a lot of information on how the system has worked for them, and also what they had to go to. And then other than that, that's really what they're looking for, qualified people, but a diversified committee.
I don't disagree with the fact that we need some outside consultation. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that we jump into making a motion to establish a committee. I think we need to understand what that committee looks like first. How many board members, what is the term, what is the scope of services that they're going to be providing, and then understanding how that committee is going to be structured, and then going out.
Who decides who's going to be on it?
The EDA.
The EDA board.
And that's why
EDA, these names will be brought up.
They'll be brought back to
I
us.
think this doesn't answer.
I think that's why we need to determine how is this, what's the chart, is really what it boils down to.
Well, then I suggest let's form a committee to just take a look at that and come back with.
I don't think you need a committee. I mean, it's pretty much cut and dried in the USDA requirements. So I think we can get that to Greg with not a problem.
Yeah, if we can establish that baseline,
Yeah.
and if it's already done, that's great. I just want to know what it is.
I mean, it truly is. So, we're not reinventing the wheel here.
It's gonna be pretty straightforward. My concern is I know we've talked about this a couple of different meetings, and I don't want us to come in here some Friday morning, well, we need to start the committee next month, so here's your names. I want a public process, it's my passport, what I'm at.
I agree.
I just want us to advertise this and put it out, and the requirements, they're all USDA, and I'm fine with that, I'm not questioning any of them, but I do want it to be public notice. I don't want us to come in here and with a list of names, please approve these people.
Well, I agree, but and I don't know if there's a way around it, and I don't want to belabor the point. There's always controversy as to how people are appointed to these roles. And I don't know if there's a way to make those candidates public. I don't know if they want to be. I don't know from a personnel standpoint if it if that can be done, but I know that there does tend to be issues with who serves on these boards and their credentials and how they actually got here.
I have a question to Sharon about that. I understand you want to have the public have input in it.
I want them to know it.
But yeah, suppose, is it okay, let's say we don't have a banker that applies or whatever. Is there any reason we can't approach somebody that we think would be good for the committee to see if they'll serve?
Oh, sure. Yes, you can do that, yes.
Because that could be a real problem to get diversity or to get, appropriate
Particularly in the background.
expertise and stuff, yeah.
We will have to, in all probability, we will have to solicit some people to submit.
Right.
But I think we have to have a public notice that says you can submit, so that if there's somebody we don't know about
Sure.
that is interested. I would ask Mr. Harold, having been involved in public and private interviews of these, I'd be very hesitant to go to a public interview at this process, at this level. This is not running for the Board of Supervisors or something. This is an individual committee. So with that discussion, are we okay time if we do this in January? So I would request that we send the board members the information on the USDA's criteria, so we can all see that, and the responsibilities of the committee. Would that cover what we need? Yes. And then place this as an item under the Finance Committee for January.
Do you want, the Finance Committee, do you want us to have the ad already out?
I want you to
By
have drafted, if you
January?
could.
Just draft it.
I'm okay
No
if
problem.
we want to approve it, that way everybody can give input for January meeting. Other items for finance. Okay, we will go back to the agenda then to discuss our closed session 1. I have a question there under the first item. Is there anything with Fairgrounds Road that we want to discuss? Because I don't think Fairgrounds Road is part of this discussion. I don't think we have anything done.
No, I think it's.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm lost.
So it's only the second and third.
So we're only going to do items 2 and 3. So we will do items 2 and 3. If somebody would take us into closed session with items 2 and 3.
Jeff Brown moved that the Board of EDA vote to go into closed meeting under the provisions of Section 2.2, 3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act for the following purposes. Virginia Code 2.2, 3711A7, consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation, where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body. I further move that such discussion be limited to the case of Industrial Development Authority versus Jennifer McDonald et al. And Workforce Housing. Virginia Code 2.2, 3711A8, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding the specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. I further move that such discussion be limited to the discussion of loans, accounts, and debt services, First Bank and Trust, EDA parking lot, and the Afton Inn. Blanton?
Aye.
Daly?
Aye.
Pattison?
Aye.
Baker?
Aye.
Brown? Aye. Harold?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
We are in closed session.